Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video I want to talk about tips on how to start a property investment. So I have just finished my 15-bedroom student accommodation, and I thought now that my brain is still fresh, it will be good for me to talk about property as a whole in case you want to get yourself into it so that you have an idea of what yourself getting yourself into. To be honest, I have just written everything down. I have not put it in any nice format, but I'm hoping to articulate it very well to you in a way that you find value in it. Okay, so before we can go, please make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and I appreciate it if you watch the advert because that's the way in which I get paid. Okay, let's get started. Like I said, I wrote a lot, so please bear with me. I'll be looking at my notes a lot, and also there's lighting coming from the side, so I'm not even going to be able to see very well, so just be graceful. Okay, so another thing that is worth mentioning is that I read this book. I also read this book in preparation of my own project. But also I read a book which is called Creating Wealth Through Student Accommodation. So I read these three books and they really helped me a lot to put my thoughts together, to plan and to execute. Okay, so if you're looking for any of those books, holla at me. I can direct you, but I know the two that I've shown you should be there at Exclusive Books because that's where I bought mine. And the Creating Wealth Through Student Accommodation is an ebook, and I can give you the link of the lady who wrote the book on the description. Okay, so while I was reading this book, the author mentioned that in the past 10 years, property investment was able to make a return of 45% annually, and that's great versus any of the market that is out there, including stocks. So this is a good investment, and personally I like it because I find myself hedging inflation very well with property, because not only does it generate an inflation linked revenue, but also it appreciates in value. Okay, so if you have watched my videos in 2022, the first video where I was talking about 5 financial plans that I have for 2022, one of the plans I had was actually to reduce the cash that I have on my overall financial portfolio. So I had 76% of cash, and that was bothering me, so I had to transfer some of that cash into properties. Okay, so that's what also constituted of the 15-bedroom student accommodation project that I was doing. So I wanted to have less cash because hey, inflation is not our friend. Okay, so now we can start, guys. I hope these insights are good enough for you to do something with them. Okay, so first thing that I want to say is that give yourself time. Give yourself time. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to know. I'm always learning a new thing about property, so give yourself time to do the research before you can get into the actual project. Okay, but if you were to ask me right now when is the best time to start investing, I'll say right now, including the time to do the research and to do the viewing, to do everything else that you have to do before you actually start committing. So right now, of course, including or considering the affordability as well. If you can afford, the best time is to do it now. You can never go wrong with property, in as much as it might not be growing in terms of appreciation as the past years. Property is still one of the best investment versus any other investments that are out there, and a better retirement fund that you can have for you, and wealth creation that you can do for yourself. I think that speaks a lot about my passion with property, but hey, that's where we are. So first thing that you need to do is to decide whether you want to do flipping or you want to do rentals, right? In terms of flipping, this is deciding to buy a property and renovate it to a point where you can sell it on a higher value. So the key to doing this successfully is having the skill to identify a property that is undervalued, and having the knowledge to know what on the property, what on the physical structure of the property can you change to add the value so that you can sell it at a higher price. The beauty about this method is that you can make quick bucks very fast. Okay, so you can make very quick bucks very fast. You can make 200k, 300k very fast. However, because you're not planning on doing rental on this one, you have to make it sellable very fast, because you don't want to keep it for long, because you don't plan to do rental. And of course, if you realize that it's not sellable, you may need to do rental on it just so you can have income on this property. Okay, so a lot of people who get themselves into this type of investment normally are seasoned investors, because they get into the habit of identifying undervalued property and also identifying structures and areas that could be improved, and identifying a potential on a property to see if it can be sellable for a higher value than you initially bought it for. So this is what flipping is. I've never done a flip, and I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to do it, right? However, what I know is the common investment, which is rental, right? So rental is what most of us know. So rental, you have a short-term rental, you also have a long-term rental, right? On a long-term rental, you have you can have a 6 months, 12 months contract. Some people can have longer contract. That's what long-term rental is. And the short-term rental, on the other hand, is where you pay per night. I think it's most commonly known as Airbnb, although that's not its real name, because Airbnb is a platform in which you can advertise short-term rental. Okay, so on a long-term rental, if you want to do rental, you have to know what type of property do you want to do rental on. Do you want to do it on a standalone house? Do you want to do it on a sectional title or flats? Do you want to build multiple buildings for a multi-let or for a student accommodation? So you have to decide those things, because those things will determine where you go and look for your property, right? So before you can go and look, you have to choose what do you want to do. So some of the considerations you have to put in mind is that on a sectional title, you're buying your house in a complex, and you're only buying the square meters of your house. So anything outside belongs to everyone, belongs to the body of corporate. You cannot necessarily do anything with it, right? And with a standalone house, the beauty about it is that you have your own house, you also have a yard, and then you have the demarcation, the outside square meter, which is nice, because then you have the ability to expand, where else on a sectional title you do not, right? So one of the things that you need to put into your mind in terms of sectional title is that there are rules in place that belongs to the overall complex. So you have to keep in mind of your potential tenant that you want to have, so that you know that they will be able to comply with the rules, right? For example, if you're doing a sectional title and you want students, possibilities that you will always be called by the body of corporate wanting you to say one thing or the other that a student has done, because they deal with you, not the tenants. Okay, they deal with owners. Okay, and also you have to consider additional cost that comes with being in a sectional title, which could be municipality levies as well as rates and taxes. Okay, and meaning that if you're looking into return on investment on a sectional title, do think of this additional cost. For an example, if you're buying a house that cost 900,000 on a prime lending rate of 10.5 currently, you will be paying a bond of 8.9 thousand. And you need to know, in an area in which you want to buy this, would you be able to recoup the amount in which is needed to make this operational, like your operational cost, right? Would you be able to recoup through the rent? Okay, because in most 2-bedroom houses, yes, you can charge 5,000 on another house and 5,000 on another house, and that's like the most you can charge. in most areas. Of course, the rate in which you can charge is determined by the area and the location in which the house is based. So these are the type of things you need to think about. So if you can charge, let's say for an example, being reasonable, 4.5 on another house and 4.5 on another house, you will get 9,000. However, if your bond is 8.9 already, you will most likely need more money to have this property running, meaning that you will have what is called a shortfall. Shortfall is an amount that you will have to pay so that the house can run. So that will mean it's your levies, it's your rates and taxes. Okay, the beauty about this is that the electricity and the water, they can pay themselves. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And the fact that you're not breaking even from the get-go doesn't necessarily mean that sectional titles are not good investments. You just have to do the projections over the next coming years to see by when you'll be able to break even. And if you're breaking even in the next coming 2 years and you're able to cover for the shortfall for the first and the second year, I don't see any problem in you buying a sectional title. You just have to be aware, and the reason why you're buying a sectional title should be the one that gives you a go ahead or a no go, right? Some people buy sectional title house because they want to hand it over to their kids when their kids have grown, or they want their kids to stay in it when they go to university, or they want to sell it at some point so that they can pay for their children's school fees. Some of them buy it for safety purposes and easy management purposes and security purposes. Okay, so that's it about sectional title. If you're buying a standalone house, however, you have a potential to expand, and that's the beauty about it. You have a potential to expand, and a potential to expand a building means a potential to expand your income, right? So with a standalone house, whether you want to do multi-lets or you want to just rent it out as it is, the beauty about it is that at any time you can expand, right? So one thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you want to do multi-lets or student accommodation, yes, it's exciting in terms of the income that you can get. For example, if you have 15 bedroom and you're charging 3.5 per month, you're most likely to get about 52,500 maximum on revenue on that property, right? And consider the fact that to be able to convert, you will need money, right? You will need money to be able to do the renovations to convert this house that you bought into student accommodation. And if you want to build multi-lets, you may need to demolish the overall house and build a new multi-lets, or just to extend on top of the 2-bedroom maybe that you found within the stand and build the multi-let. And this can be costly. So you have to make sure that you save. I know a lot of people get excited when you mention the number of properties or multi-lets that you have, but the thing that they miss is that there is money that is needed upfront to be able to do the conversion of the building that you currently have into the multi-let or a student accommodation. So personally, I used 400 and something thousand, and that was really a lot of money, in as much as I had a goal of transferring my cash into asset that generates income. I was not ready to spend that much. It was really a lot. It used to make me happy to have so much money in my account, and now I don't have it. It's in the project, right? So that's something that you need to have in mind. But alternatively, in case you do not have the money and you qualify for a bond that is, let's say for an example, 2 million rand, you don't have to buy a house that was worth 2 million rand. You can buy a house that is maybe 1.6, and then you use the 400,000 to actually renovate, meaning that you will ask of a bond of a 2 million, which is what you qualify from the bank. However, use the difference between the selling price and the bond that you qualified for renovation, which is possible. So you can consider that alternative. Okay, so I spoke about sectional type, the difference between flipping and renting, and I also spoke about the difference between buying sectional title as well as buying standalone house. Now I'll be moving into point number 2, which is location. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Yes, you need a lot of capital. It can be very costly. However, there is alternative options of qualifying. Yes, so one last thing that I want to mention on student accommodation that you need to keep in mind that may need cash it's finishing the house. If you're building multi-lets, it's a good thing because people prefer bringing their own beds and finishing their own house that they're renting. However, for students, you need to buy beds for them, you need to buy tables for them, you need to buy chairs for them, you need to have Wi-Fi for them, you need to have security for them. So those are the type of things that you need to think about. And I had estimated costs here, just so in case you're doing this, you know about how much you can work with. So for a bed, a 3/4 can go for up to 2.4. You can negotiate lower, and a single for 1.9. A desk, I bought mine from Decofen for 750, and it's a really nice, like, modern desk. A chair, you can get it for 100 rand at Game or Macro. Wi-Fi, you can get it for, depending on the quality in which you want, you can get it for 700 and above. And considering the fact that now students are doing more streaming because of COVID, you have to consider getting a strong fiber, right? So I pay about 700 per month on fiber, and some providers actually charge you installation cost. I didn't pay that. You need to buy fridges because they rely on you as a landlord to provide them fridges. I know some bachelors on student accommodation actually require students to have their own fridge. Curtains and security cost and gate system cost, you know, they can vary depending on the supplier. So those are the things that really you need to think about, right? And on the short-term rental part of things, this is something called an Airbnb, right? And I don't know if I mentioned this, Airbnb is not the actual name. It's, you know, a platform in which you can advertise your short-term rental, right? So on this, you have a huge potential to make money, right? However, location is your best friend. Guys, the when and the what of property investment is actually the key to your success, right? If you can get the when and the what correctly, this good mixture can make you good money. So if you're in a good location, you will make good money on Airbnb, right? So your biggest worry on Airbnb should be a security. If you do an Airbnb, which is short-term rental, in a sectional title, you have an issue of constantly people moving out and in, and if there's like one common security, the body of corporate may not like it. So depending on their requirements, you may struggle. And also, you need to have a person who comes in and out every time there's someone checking in and out. So and when it's a sectional title, where would they stay? So that means there's someone who stay closer that you need to find, right? So speaking about location, so that's what Airbnb is about. And I think one thing that I like about both short-term rental and long-term rental on the rental space is that you can use little to none of your own money doing this. So for long-term rental, you can use the bank's money to buy a house and use the tenant's money to pay back the loan of the bank. And in terms of short-term rental, you can find someone's property and ask them, I think it's called arbitrage. You can ask them that you do an Airbnb on their property and you will pay them a rent, meaning that you will make more money than the rent that is required and give the owner the rent, meaning that you're a middleman between the person who wants to rent for Airbnb and the owner of the house. So, you know, there's an opportunity to make money here. Okay, number 2, location and location and location. Seasoned property investors will tell you that location is everything. And yeah, it is. It really is. You really need to understand the market of the area in which you're investing in. What are the new developments that are upcoming? You know, you need to be friends with town planners so that, you know, you get the knowledge of what's actually happening in your place. Also, to be cautious of areas that are deteriorating, right? One example, I was interested in an area called Dinwiddie in Jamestown, and white people are actually leaving the area and black people are slowly moving in, right? So unfortunately, that area is starting to be associated with crime. I don't know if that's a perception or it's a fact, but you can actually get a stats of crime rates around an area, and you can compare it with other areas within the location and see if that's worth you putting your investment there. So really be cautious, ask questions, and I'll speak later about a dream team. Ask your agent about these things, and they have abilities to access this information, and they can help you to understand what you're getting yourself into, because the location of your area, actually it's the core of your business. Because of the location, that will determine the influx of the Airbnb bookings. It will determine the longevity of people who are booked for long-term rental. It will determine whether students feel comfortable to stay there or not. Okay, it actually took me about 6 months to find a place that I was comfortable with to actually make that investment, because really I had a lot of questions, and as soon as I find that there is something which will disturb me in a long run, I actually stopped the investment, and I stopped the search, and I went to another area. So give yourself time so that you can be able to do all these exercises, right? And if you're looking for student accommodation and multi-lets, one thing to keep in mind is rezoning, right? So understand the zoning of that area. So don't buy a property, a residential property, hoping to convert it into student accommodation in an area that is not demarcated as a student area, because town planners around that area possibly know which areas are going to be student accommodation, and you have to ask those questions before buying. Because imagine buying thinking that it's a bargain because you're most likely going to convert it into student accommodation, and when you apply for rezoning, they say that you're not approved because that area cannot be changed into student accommodation. And rezoning is such a complex process, and it can take long. It can take up to 8 months, because they still need to advertise, they still need to get approval from your neighbors to say you can do what you're rezoning for doing. And I think when you're doing student accommodation, you have to have a mix of business and residential in terms of rezoning. So yep. So, and rezoning is costly, guys. I was charged about 30,000, so it's very, very costly. And one thing to keep in mind is that while doing the rezoning or the renovation, you have to keep in mind that the house does not belong to you. So you have to ask for permission from the bank to actually do this. Okay. So when it comes to student accommodation, while we're still on location, please keep in mind that for student accommodation, location is not that hard to find, because location means it's any area where you can find students, and universities are already there, meaning that it's surrounding areas around universities. However, different areas offers different investment type and different requirements for students. For an example, Val is not the same as UJ and is not the same as UCT. So you have to know the area in which you're trying to invest in, what is the requirements and how does it work. And I know a lot of people actually join student accommodation because of NSFAS payments. Yes, it's nice, but you have to know what are NSFAS requirement in this area. Okay, so that you don't only find out that these NSFAS actually pay directly to students, so they're not gonna pay to you later on after having to do the investment, which is something that can happen, right? So for universities, you have what is called rural universities and you have cities universities, and these two universities actually offer two different student accommodations. So you have to know if you're doing a city student accommodation, students are most likely to ask for more when it comes to quality, when it comes to privacy, when it comes to like a lot than students in a rural university. So find out what those are, find out if you would be able to provide that, and if it's cost effective for you to be able to proceed with this investment. It's always good to check more than 2 places, so that when you choose the one which you want to invest in, you know for sure that that is what you want to do. For an example, let's say for an example, Val and UJ, right? Val and UJ, one thing for sure, selling price. Like selling price at UJ, it's so expensive, and in the Val, it's relatively affordable. Stands in the UJ are smaller, and in the Val are a little bit bigger. So you have to think about those things as well to say, what can I do in the Val and what can I do at UJ? Where else at UJ, you can charge more rent than you can in the Val. So think about those things, to do those research before you can actually start, right? One important thing is return on investment. I think I spoke about this when I was talking about sectional titles, that you need to understand if you'll be able to get a profit, or if you'll be able to cover your expenses, because why are we doing business if we're not profitable? So you have to do profitability assessment before you can actually buy, right? You have to know how much insurance you're gonna possibly pay for a house that costs the amount in which you're potentially to buy. Wi-Fi, security, municipality, electricity if you're offering to students, because students will want you to cover electricity, and also depending on where. Management fee, if you're planning on managing it yourself, then maybe you don't need a fee. But if you're planning on hiring someone, especially for us who have 9 to 5, it gives you a lot of peace of mind to have someone managing it. So you have to incorporate the management fee as well into that, and then the bond. So then you have a total operating cost. And then you have to understand the market around the area in which you're staying in. So you can renovate your place and make it look 5,000 rand. But if the market is 2.5, the most that student can buy maybe is 3,000 versus the market that is around them. So there's no way that anybody can come and say 5,000, or you will find it hard. So you have to make sure that you're willing, or you're doing your return on investment based on the calculations, based on the rates that are being charged in the area that you're planning on buying. So number 4, it's the dream team. You have to make sure that you have what is called the dream team, right? If you are looking into investing in a property, right? You have your estate agent, you have your bond originator, you have your conveyancer, you have your letting agents, you have contractors. And really, to be honest, guys, it's very important to have this team in place, and making sure that you work with them. You know what they do, so that they also understand your vision. It's much more easier for someone to help you get what you want when they understand where you're going with everything, right? So let's start with each one of these people, right? And we'll start with an agent, because this includes the process of buying. Now, when you've done your research, you understand what you want, then you're starting to look, right? An agent is a person who's going to help you to look. So if you tell them, okay, I want a standalone house that I'll be able to expand to 15 bedroom, they know the square meters that they would look for and the potential houses that can do what you want. So you save yourself time and that of your agent by eliminating other houses that don't fit into your category, right? So your agent as a buyer does not get paid by you, which is a nice thing. It gets paid by the seller. However, so because you have an agent as a buyer and the seller has an agent, that means your agent as a buyer will get a partial commission out of the commission that a seller is going to get. Seller's agent don't like this because they are sharing their commission with an agent, right? And they do most of the work as a seller's agent. However, it's good to have an agent while you're looking for a property, because they help you to see things which by your own maybe by your own you wouldn't be able to see, right? So there's like a couple of things that I'm looking for in this book. Not offer to purchase. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. Oh, not tenants. Oh, Jesus, will I get it? Give me a second, guys. It's important. It's important. It's important. Yes. This is a checklist that you have to work with while you're looking for an agent, right? You need to check the type of the floor, the condition of the floor, the type of the windows, the wardrobes and the cupboards. Is there enough lighting? How many rooms are there? Are bedrooms big enough? Is it convertible? Do they have in-suite bathroom? Would you be able to do bachelors if that's what you want? Does the kitchen have a stove? Is there enough electricity sockets on the wall? Is the separate tap? Does the flat have curtains and blind? Those kind of things. Those are some of the examples of the things that you need to keep in mind together with your agent while you're starting to look for a property. Okay, so yep, I have mentioned, and also just make sure that your agent is